I never thought I'd experience anything out of the ordinary at my local Starbucks, but that fateful day would change everything. The sky was overcast, and a light drizzle tapped on the window panes as I entered the familiar coffee shop. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me as I approached the counter to place my usual order, a caramel latte with an extra shot of espresso. The barista, a friendly face I'd come to know over the years, flashed a welcoming smile as she began crafting my drink. I took a seat by the window, my latte in hand, and opened my laptop to catch up on work. The cafe was mostly empty, with just a few scattered customers immersed in their own worlds. As I sipped my latte, I noticed something odd. The taste was different, not the usual comforting blend of sweet caramel and rich espresso. Instead, it was bitter, like burnt coffee beans, and there was an undertone of something unsettling, a hint of darkness. I shrugged it off, assuming it was just a one-time mistake. But as I continued to sip, the bitterness intensified, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I glanced around the cafe, my unease growing. It was then that I noticed it. The other customers were behaving strangely. Their eyes were vacant, their expressions blank, as if they were in a trance. And then I heard it, the faintest whispers, like an eerie chorus of voices coming from all directions. I looked down at my latte, my heart pounding, and that's when I saw them. Tiny, shadowy figures swirling in the depths of my cup. They danced and swayed, their movements unnatural, and their whispers grew louder, more distinct. The voices spoke in a language I couldn't understand, but their tone was unmistakable, a malevolent, mocking laughter. Panic surged through me as I realized that whatever I was witnessing was far from normal. I tried to leave, to escape the nightmarish scene unfolding before me, but my body refused to respond. I was paralyzed, trapped in my seat as the whispers grew louder, filling my ears with their sinister symphony. The other customers remained oblivious, lost in their trances, but I was alone in this waking nightmare. The figures in my latte seemed to beckon me, their shadowy forms stretching upward as if reaching for me. As I stared into the abyss of my latte, I realized that I had stumbled upon something beyond comprehension, a portal to a realm of darkness and despair. The voices demanded my submission, my soul, and I knew that I had to fight. Summoning every ounce of willpower, I forced myself to my feet and hurled the cup to the ground. The latte splattered across the floor, the figures dissipating into nothingness. The whispers faded, and the cafe returned to normal. I stumbled out of Starbucks, my heart racing, my mind haunted by the chilling encounter. I couldn't explain what had happened that day, but I knew one thing for sure. I would never look at a cup of coffee the same way again. My morning routine always included a stop at Starbucks, where the aroma of fresh coffee and the comforting ambience eased me into the day. It was a place of familiarity and routine, until one chilling encounter shattered my sense of safety. The day was bright and sunny as I walked into the cafe. I exchanged pleasantries with the barista, a friendly young woman named Emily, as she prepared my usual, a caramel macchiato with an extra shot of espresso. With my coffee in hand, I took my seat at a corner table, enjoying the warmth of the sun streaming through the window. The cafe was buzzing with customers, the familiar background noise a source of comfort. As I sipped my coffee, I noticed a man sitting at the table across from me. He appeared to be in his 40s, dressed in a neatly pressed suit and engrossed in a book. Nothing about him seemed out of the ordinary, but as I continued to observe, an unsettling realization washed over me. He never looked up from his book. Minutes turned into hours, and still the man hadn't so much as glanced in my direction. His complete and utter lack of acknowledgement was unnerving, as if I were invisible to him. I couldn't help but shift uncomfortably in my seat, my curiosity giving way to unease. I watched as other patrons came and went, exchanging greetings with Emily, but the man remained stoic and unresponsive. With each passing moment, my anxiety grew, and I decided to take action. I cleared my throat and addressed him directly. "Excuse me, sir. Is everything all right?" I asked. There was no response. The man's eyes remained fixed on his book, his demeanor unchanged. My pulse quickened as a sense of dread settled over me. I leaned closer, studying his face intently. That's when I noticed it, the subtle, unnatural stillness of his features. His skin appeared waxy and pale, his eyes devoid of life. It was as if I were staring at a mannequin dressed in a suit. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the horrifying truth. The man before me was not a living, breathing individual. It was a lifeless puppet, a vessel for something far more sinister. Just as this realization dawned upon me, the cafe's ambiance shifted. The background noise grew muffled, the patrons froze in place, and the sunlight streaming through the window dimmed to an eerie twilight. I tried to push my chair back and escape, but my body felt heavy and unresponsive. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped, a silent witness to a horrifying scene unfolding before me. The man's lifeless eyes finally turned toward me, and he smiled, an unnerving, predatory grin that sent terror coursing through my veins. It was then that I understood the malevolent truth. I had stumbled upon a sinister entity, a maleficent being that dwelled within the mannequin's form. As the cafe plunged into darkness, I could only watch in helpless horror as the malevolent presence drew closer, its intentions shrouded in darkness, and my fate hanging in the balance. I used to find solace in the quiet moments at Starbucks, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the hum of conversations, and the gentle clinking of cups. But one morning, as I sat sipping my latte, I would come face to face with an unrelenting evil. The sun had yet to rise, casting long shadows across the cafe's cozy interior. I had arrived early, seeking refuge from the chaos of my daily life. The barista, an unassuming figure named Mark, served my latte with a nod and a faint smile. I settled into a corner booth, savoring the warmth of my drink. The cafe was nearly empty, save for a few patrons scattered about, lost in their thoughts or screens. As I gazed out the window, I noticed a man sitting at a nearby table, a man with cold, calculating eyes and a demeanor that sent shivers down my spine. He wore a nondescript jacket and a baseball cap pulled low, obscuring most of his features. For a moment, I dismissed my unease as paranoia, but as I continued to sip my latte, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. My eyes met his, and I quickly averted my gaze, my heart racing, but it was too late. The man rose from his seat and approached me, his footsteps oddly silent on the cafe's hardwood floors. He slid into the booth across from me, a chilling smile spreading across his lips. Without a word, he produced a folded piece of paper and placed it on the table. My trembling hands reached for it, unfolding the note. The words were written in hurried, jagged letters, scrawled with a malevolent intent. "Drink your latte," the note read. "It's your last sip." I looked at the man in horror, but he remained unnervingly silent. The cafe's atmosphere grew heavy, and the other patrons seemed oblivious to the unfolding horror before them. Reluctantly, I raised my latte to my lips, the taste of my once-beloved drink now bitter and foreboding. I knew that something sinister lurked within, a poison or something far more insidious. As I took a cautious sip, the man's smile widened, and he leaned in closer, his breath chilling my skin. I felt a surge of panic, realizing that I was trapped in a life-or-death situation, with the fate of my very soul hanging in the balance. With each sip, the world around me seemed to blur, and the cafe faded into darkness. The man's laughter echoed in my ears as I descended into a nightmarish abyss, my vision clouded by the malevolent force within the latte. I awoke with a start, back in the quiet Starbucks, my latte untouched and the man gone. It had all been a horrifying nightmare, a twisted game orchestrated by a silent, malevolent presence. But the terror remained, and I knew that the line between dreams and reality had been irrevocably blurred. The cafe that had once been my refuge had become a place of unspeakable horror, where the sinister lurked in the shadows and evil could take the form of a simple sip of coffee.